So chapter 4 was all about the what? Reservations, okay? And the more our reservation file is complete, the easier this step for registration is going to be, okay? Because a lot of that information from the reservation file is going to be copied over into the registration file. And so we're going to go through that registration steps here in just a few moments, okay? So it's a 7-step process for the registration. Some of this happens before the guest even arrives at the hotel, okay? And so the first one, that pre-registration activities, we could possibly pre-assign rooms. What would be an example or an instance where we would need to pre-assign rooms? What's that?
A tour group.
Okay, so if you have a tour group, we want to make sure we pre-assign those rooms, get the names on the, pre-assign those, create those keys, and get them ready to go. Jacqueline. Okay, and especially if you have a rooming list, so in that case of a tour or like a high school group, you want to make sure that you have them all in the same area, on the same floor. You might decide to go ahead and actually, if they have the opportunity to fill up an entire floor, I'd rather have them all on one floor than spread throughout my entire hotel and potentially going to disturb the guests that are around them. Okay, what else? Say? Okay, yeah, so if somebody is specifically requesting an ADA room, we want to make sure we get that pre-assigned so that we don't actually use those, okay? Michelle at the Fairfield Spring Hill, she actually she put those 2 rooms that we were in, she specifically put them on hold so that nobody would sell them, so that we would have access to those connecting rooms during that time period. So we can pre-assign rooms, we can put rooms on hold, we can do a lot of different things during that registration process. At La Quinta, when I worked there, I don't know if they had just started the LQ rewards or like how new that really was, but for me it was like my first introduction to the rewards programs at a hotel. And so I typically work the 7 to 3 shift, the first shift of the day. And so my role in between checkouts was to find out who all my LQ members were and actually pre-assign their rooms. So that when they came in, all I had to do was hand them their key cards and their registration card, they sign it, and then they were done. And so it really facilitated that process of the check-in for them as LQ members, okay? So we're going to use, as we use all the reservation stuff is going to come over to create that registration record. So again, the more detailed we can be in the reservation process, the less information we have to gather at the registration process, okay? We also want to look at assigning the guest room and the room rate. Okay, we have a variety of different rates. We want to make sure that the rate that we are charging for that room is the appropriate rate. Okay, what type of rates do we have? We have military, AAA, sorry, ARP, government rates, corporate rates. Okay, so we have all these variety of different rates. We also have rates with online travel agencies. We want to make sure that those rates are appropriate and that we have the appropriate rates assigned to those guest rooms. Okay, and we go on over to once the guest has arrived. Okay, this kind of goes a little bit into that. So the guest has arrived. If they're not already pre-assigned to a room, we're going to go ahead and give them that guest room. We want to establish their method of payment. Okay, is it okay to accept cash for a room?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Give a credit card. You can do it, but you need to have a credit card on file.
Okay.
So we pre-authorize, and then upon checkout, then they can go ahead and pay in cash because it will just release the authorization and they'll just accept the cash payment.
Okay.
Just to secure them.
So that's one way to do it. The other way is if they do accept cash, then that means they don't have any charge privileges. so they can't charge anything to their room. So we turn that off in their in their registration record. They can't order, movies. They can't order games in their room. They can't purchase from the snack bar and charge it to their room. They don't have charge privileges. And so if they are adamant on paying in cash only, we can absolutely do that. But just as long as we explain to them that if you do this, you can't, there's no charge privileges. You can't charge anything to the room. That's why we have a method of payment like a credit card. And we pre-authorize what we call, the amount for incidentals. And so, yes, I'm going to pre-authorize the room for the amount for my room and tax, plus an additional amount each day or each stay for incidentals for them to charge. Okay. Yes.
If they pay cash, do they have to pay, like, let's say they're staying for 4 days, do they have to pay all 4 days up front? So they can't come down every day and pay?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. No, they would need to pay all up front, or like Marlene, you can swipe a credit card you basically put a hold on it. So in the event that they don't come down and pay at the end, that they can charge that to the card. But at the end, they can come and pay for cash. I mean, the same thing you can do if you decide, if they want to pay with a debit card, they might put their authorization on a credit card, and then at the end come and pay with a debit card. They can change that payment to a debit card. Otherwise, if they pre-authorize on a debit card, then it's going to look like they got charged twice. It's going to put those funds on hold twice. And so the other thing that I was just thinking of, I can't remember what it was. Oh, so about 3 years ago, I went to the San Luis Resort in Galveston for a conference. And I have an alert set up on my credit card that anything over $100, I get a text message notification. So I checked in and my phone buzzed. I was there for, I think, 3 nights. Yeah, 3 nights. And I got a phone message and it says $850 has been authorized on your Visa card. And I was just like, whoa, that's a big chunk of change. And so, they authorize not only the room and the tax, which eventually I was tax exempt, but they also authorize, I think, $50 a day on top of that for the resort. Though there's the resort fee, which I think was $25 a day, plus $55 or $50 a day for incidentals, right? And so they pre-authorize that amount. That's not the amount that I'm going to get charged in the end. It's just that's what they need to pre-authorize to make sure that I have enough credit on this card for them to, if I were to do everything, then they would be covered. They'd be able to get their money. Yeah.
It takes 45 business days to go back to.
3 to 5 business days? I use my credit card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I use my credit card. All right, so we definitely want to verify the guest's identity using a photo ID, of course. We're going to issue the room key, and we definitely never want to announce the room number. Why do we not want to announce the room number?
Security.
It is security, right? We don't know who else is around, hanging around in the lobby. If you say, "Here, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for staying with us. Your room is, 305." You just announced to everybody in the lobby that Mr. Smith is going to 305. Okay, and so how do we typically do that? We write it down on a little key card envelope, and we usually point to it. Here's your room. Yes, ma'am. You have?
Yeah.
Well, now that you know, you can correct them. And be like, can I get a new room where you don't say it out loud to everybody? Right? So you can do that. You can just say, actually, can I request a different room? And don't announce it to everybody that where I'm staying. I mean, there's probably find some kind of tactful way of saying that. But yeah, no, it is for security reasons. Because you don't know, the people that are in the lobby, they may or may not be guests of the hotel. And even if they are guests of the hotel, you don't want to announce what room the guests are staying in. Okay? Typically, they'll point to it. Or if you're like me, if I've pre-registered or I've checked in online on my Hilton app, then I already know what room number I'm in. because it comes to me already. So, but yeah. And then the last thing, I mean, this is the last thing in the process. I feel like when I was writing this, I was like, I know this is like the process that's given, but I feel like responding to special requests might even be somewhere else throughout here, like scattered throughout and at multiple stages. So you might see special requests in the reservation file before you transfer it over to the registration file. You might also, as they come to the front desk, as you're trying to assign the guest room, you might ask them, are you here celebrating something? And are you here, you know, what brings you to San Antonio? We're here to celebrate our anniversary. Okay, so it might be a nice thing to do if you have it available and you're empowered to do so. You might upgrade them to a junior suite, or you might upgrade them to a suite, you know, if you have that available. Particularly if they are if they're part of your member program, rewards program. So those special requests, those also can be done, you know, afterwards. So you might, if they request extra pillows, or if they request pillows that are, you know, like Michelle said, no feathers or only feathers or things like that, you want to make sure that those special requests are acknowledged and responded to. Any questions? Any of y'all make special requests when you travel? Be honest.
High floor and away from the elevator.
High floor and away from the elevator.
I never want to be on the first floor.
Why not?
Because bugs. I think bugs can get in your room easily on the first floor, so I never want to be on the first floor.
Okay.
It's there, everything's, I don't want to.
Yeah, okay. Cool. What else?
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Any other special requests that y'all make when you travel? What's that? Foam pillows, okay. One time, when I first on the, I was staying downtown at the Embassy Suites, and I checked in. It was the first time I started using the check-in online. It wasn't quite the app yet, but it was online, the Hilton. And so I checked in, and it said special requests, and you can like request that, you know, different candy bars be in or Cokes or whatever can be in your room when you arrive. Of course, it's like $4 a soda, so I'm like, no, thank you. I'll just bring a 6-pack with me. But then it said extra pillows, and I didn't need extra pillows. I was just testing it to see how. And sure enough, I walked into the room at the foot of my bed with 2 extra pillows that I had requested. And so having those requests in advance lets housekeeping know when they are preparing my room, they know that they need to put those pillows in that specific room. And so it really kind of made that process. I tried to do that with Marriott's last summer in 2018. I stayed at a couple different Marriott's, but I was typically making my reservations within 12 to 14 hours. One of them I did do like 24 plus hours in advance, and I requested extra amenities, like extra shampoo, extra soap, just to see, and they never made it into my room. So that's why I go Hilton. I'm just kidding. They always get it right. Any other? I'm just kidding. I'm pro hotel. I just love hotels. Yes.
I was just gonna say, so the morning shift, we have on the reports, the CRM report, and it's the day of arrivals. So that's how we go based off any special request by status.
Okay.
So it gives us that. So we just give that to the housekeepers so they know that they're requesting certain, like pillows,
Yeah.
blankets.
Is that a report that is run during the night audit the night before, or is that something you run in the morning when you arrive? Okay. 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 Cool. Yes, Greg.
I don't really have a problem in the States, but when I travel to certain places overseas, specifically the Middle East, I have to request a non-smoking room.
Okay. Gotcha.
So just every time I've gone there, they put me in a smoking room. So I guess they just assume everyone smokes, so you have to request
a non-smoking room. Okay, interesting. Good
Where
to
in the
know.
States, it seems to be the opposite, if you could even smoke in any hotel.
Yeah, the La Quinta where I worked, I want to say the 6th floor was the smoking floor, and so we also had, I think it was the 24s. So like 224, 324, 424, 524, 624 were all of our 2-room suites where there was an actual door that closed between the living room and the bedroom. And then also it had a jacuzzi tub for 2 in the bathroom. And so, so 624 was my only smoking room like that. And so oftentimes we would save it towards the end, but then also if somebody did come in that was our last room, we would say, by the way, this is a smoking room, and so there is the potential that we do our best we can to, you know, deodorize it and whatnot, but there is that potential. Yeah. All right, so there's a lot of different ways that we can bill for the rooms, okay? So groups are the primary ones that we're going to be focusing on, because if I'm traveling by myself, I'm going to pay for my room, okay? A group might have a master account, okay? So the first level, that's a master account. The group's going to pay for everything. So let's say all of us, all 25 of us are going to go into a hotel. We're going to go visit a hotel, and St. Philip's College is going to pay for it, okay? That means that that's not going to happen. But that means that we don't have to worry about anything. That the room, the tax, it might be something with a master account that everything is charged to that. So I did a group in Dallas one time. I went up to Dallas. And I worked for my client was from Costa Rica, and she was the meeting planner for a university in Puerto Rico, and they were opening a campus in Dallas. And so they stayed at the Hilton Anatole Hotel. That hotel, I think, is like starts at $300 a night. And so I had like, I don't know, 40 people. So, I mean, it was the president of the college, his entire staff, the families of everybody that was there. So their room night was $300 a night, and I was there for 12 days. I think they were there for 10 days. Their room night was $300 a night plus tax. But then my client was telling me that it was a master account, and so any room service, any mini bar, anything, any incidental was charged to the rooms. I can't even imagine what that master account came out to be. Yes, ma'am.
What is a master account?
So master account is where, like, if you're all staying in different rooms, but everything gets charged to one account.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna make one payment, and so everything is routed into one master account. Okay. The next one, the blue level, is where the group might only pay for the room and tax, okay? And then at that point, the members are responsible for their own incidentals, okay? So the master account, all charges are covered. They also might cover all the charges of just the VIPs only. So, so for example, the association that I go to in November, it's HEAT, the Hospitality Educators Association of Texas, and we typically have our conference at a major hotel where all of us are under one roof. And so at that point, we all make our own reservations, the attendees. Although if we have any guest speakers, we have a keynote speaker, our association manager, that goes to the master account. All the billing for our the use of our meeting space, so all of that billing gets sent over to the master account, and the VIPs are taken care of, and then the rest of us pay our own room and tax as well as our incidentals. Okay, so there's a variety of different ways, and so that's why when you're in sales, it's important to identify how is this going to be done. So that way, when people arrive, if they are expected that all charges are covered, and then you ask them for a credit card for incidentals, they may not be too happy with you, okay? They may, and it's you know, mistakes happen. But sometimes we all have had those wonderful guests that so they want, especially if you think about it, An example of when all charges would be covered is if like we're doing an incentive trip. So let's say people are salespeople for a company, and they have a sales goal to reach. And once they reach that sales goal, then they get a free trip for a week or whatever for them and a +1. So if they when they come in for an incentive trip like that, if it's an all expenses paid, they're expected to be wined and dined and because they've met their sales goal and they've done a great job. And so if you ask them for a credit card for incidentals, if you don't communicate that, like your sales team doesn't communicate that to the front desk, that everything's gonna get billed to the master account, they might get a little offended. They might, whatever. Then at that point, you just make, just apologize and move on. But you don't really kind of make a big deal out of it. So these are different ways we want to identify our guest's identity. Of course, if you're traveling internationally, you've got to use a passport. Okay. I woke up in the middle of the night, so I'm leaving on Friday for Montreal. I woke up in the middle of the night, like 2 nights ago, like freaking out because I was having a dream that I couldn't find my passport. And so I have to find it right now and put it on the table so I do not stress out on Friday. But yeah, so if you're traveling internationally, you've got to use a passport. Okay. Any other kind of government issued ID if you're traveling domestically, so within the United States. You typically, any kind of government issued ID is appropriate. And then sometimes, as far as verifying their identity, if you have a corporate account, so when I was working at La Quinta, we had a corporate account with HEB. It was an $85 negotiated rate. And it was primarily because we had the corporate offices from HEB right across the street from us. And they would often have people coming in for, a week at a time. Well, the average bagger or the average stalker at the neighborhood grocery store, if they brought in their ID and their most recent pay stub, they could get that $85 rate. It was open to anybody in the HEB company, all the way from the top executives all the way down to the entry-level positions. And so that sometimes we have to verify the guest identity with either a name badge or a pay stub to validate that they still work for that company, they still qualify for that lower rate. What other reasons are there that we would need to verify a guest identity? What other situations?
The guest is all saying that they lost their wallet and they lost everything. And one way we were able to identify a guest was they were fortunately a diamond. So they were able to they still have their tablet and they checked into the tablet.
Okay, so they had lost all their identification, and but by using their diamond status and using their tablet that they checked in, you were able to verify that they were who that was.
We wouldn't be able to
Right. Yeah. What other situations? Yes, sir.
Where they say it's in the room, but one of the attendees will assist to check and verify if that's true.
Absolutely. So housekeeping or maintenance can go up to the room and verify to give them access. Let's say they left their key in the room and they also left their wallet in the room. They have no way to get back in. You can send a hotel representative up with them to verify that is their room. So of course they're going to let them in, but at the same time they're not going to leave until they've actually verified that person that room is rented to that person. Also, like if you are a member you're a member of like the Marriott family or the Hilton family, and you have the friends and family rate, I can't just make a reservation for my friends and family or and under my name, under my associate rate, and let them check in under my name. So you have to verify that those people are who they say they are. Okay. Different creative registration options that we have. I've not seen something where they've eliminated the front desk. Has anybody experienced that before? There is just absolutely no front desk at all. I've never seen that. Yes, Jacqueline.
certain groups, they would just go immediately to a different desk.
Right. So we have it where if we have a tour group or we have a big group that's coming in house, we might have them registered over in a different area. they might be able to check in at the registration area of their hotel or of their conference. We might also be able to just have a separate area. So when we went to New York in 2008 with the Master Singers, we had a separate section of the Hilton in the giant lobby of the Hilton for all 120 of us to jump in. That way we didn't clog up the front desk. Absolutely. So that's a good unique registration method. Yes.
Doesn't the Westin have that also? Something like that?
Which Westin?
The one downtown?
I mean, they have a front desk.
Yes, but they also have a separate desk for, no, when we went, we were told it was, for like the higher members.
Okay.
VIP members.
So I'm not familiar with that. They typically have at the front desk, if there's typically one extra person on the end that usually handles just the diamond or elite members of the loyalty program. But as far as having a completely separate desk, the Westin downtown I don't believe has that. They might have something that maybe is a temporary setup. If you do have a large group checking in, that might be something that they can have set up as well. So again, if you know as a salesperson that this large group is coming in, then you might be able to set it up where you can have registration at the conference, and then like wherever they check in for the conference, they can also maybe potentially register for their rooms as well. I've not necessarily seen that, especially if the conference is in the hotel. Typically people will still check in, at least the ones that I've been to, people will still check in at the front desk independently. If the hotel if the room's not available yet, then they'll just check their bags and hold their bags in the storage. So in a couple of weeks, a week and a half, I think, next week on Friday, I have to go up to Austin for a conference, and I have to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So let me change my tone of voice. I get to be there at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. So the chances are of them having a room for me is probably not very likely, And so when I get there, granted, I'll probably just park my car and leave my stuff in my car. I won't necessarily have to. If I was traveling, then so for example, this weekend when I go to Montreal, I'm staying at an Airbnb. Don't judge me, okay? I'm just checking it out. So I'm staying at an Airbnb, but I can't check in until 6, and my flight gets in at noon. So I'm literally gonna be rolling through Montreal with my suitcase because I don't have this is one downside to an Airbnb. If I had stuck with the Embassy Suites that I originally had booked, I could go to the Embassy Suites, drop my suitcase off, and then go and explore without the baggage that I have. But now because I chose to do Airbnb, I get to walk around with my luggage until I can check in. So, so one of the benefits of having a hotel. Let's see what else is up here. So off-site, I think the next slide talks about mobile things and mobile technology, but registering off-site. So I'm not experienced this. Maybe this is maybe in a larger city like Las Vegas, that maybe if it's tied to the convention center, you might be able to check in at the registration and check in for your hotel at the same time, completely off-site.
They do that with the auto shows in Vegas. They literally have a table where you go and register for your room. As you're checking in, you register for your room.
Okay, awesome. Very cool. Any other questions about unique? No? Okay. All right. So on or off property registration can be done. It can be done through our mobile devices. We can check in through our mobile devices. Usually it's just like your airlines, 24 hours in advance, you can check into your room. I will typically go to my Hilton, I'll check in, and then they say, we have a great room for you, or you can choose your own. I'm like, I'll choose my own, because I'm gonna look at that map, and I don't know why, but if a room looks like this much bigger, I'm like, I want that room. I don't know why. I just feel like I'm getting more space for the money that I'm spending. It's ridiculous. I know it's probably not to scale, but in my mind, I'm making myself feel better. So the mobile devices, and plus also too, I don't know, it's interesting because you could, like, let's say you're really superstitious and you like a certain number, you can look to see if that room is available and you want to stay in that room. And actually, you can, I haven't done this yet because I don't think I've ever repeated at a specific hotel where I just like loved a room. Although actually I did. Last year in Montreal, I stayed at this Embassy Suites and I actually favorited the room because I thought it was a really cool room. And so if I had gone back there this year, I probably would have tried to request that specific room. So yeah, you can actually favorite a room. So if you, let's say you're someone who travels on business, like we had a lady at the La Quinta, she was there at least 1 week out of the month, like every month. And we knew that she liked this particular room. So if we saw her name on the upcoming reservations for the week, then we would actually put that room on hold so that we would make sure that we didn't sell it the night before to somebody who wanted it for 2 nights when she was going to be there for a whole week. And so if you have regular guests like that, you have that ability to accommodate those special requests. All right, so selling our guest rooms. This is all during the registration process. So selling our guest rooms, we're going to upsell. The difference between an upsell and an upgrade. What is the difference? What do you think is the difference between an upsell and an upgrade? Rebecca, what do you think? The difference between what is an upsell and what is an upgrade?
An upgrade is free, and upsell you charge them.
Exactly. So an upgrade is free, and the upsell we're actually going to charge for them. Okay. And so at the front desk, if we look and we can see that, not a lot of our suites are sold and somebody's coming in, they're checking in, they're going to be there for 3 nights, we might suggest an upsell for that. Any of y'all here upsell rooms? It's kind of, if it's not done well, it's very awkward. It's like an awkward scenario between you and that guest, and then you're just like, if it's not done well. If it's done really smoothly, then some people are just like, absolutely. Yeah, I was upsold once when I was running a car, and the girl, it was my first time, it was San Jose, to the San Jose half marathon, and this woman at the Enterprise counter, she was like talking to me, she's like, oh, this is your first time in California, and you definitely need a convertible. And I was like, you know what, I do. And I was like, I know exactly what you did, but that was so smooth, I have to give you credit for it. And so I did. When I got there, they didn't have any convertibles, so I had a Camaro, which I was not a fan of. It was too big. Anyways, I digress. But upselling, it can, when it's done right, it's really smooth. Earlier this year when I was in San Francisco for the half marathon, the lady, I checked in and she said, oh, we can get you on a higher floor with a city view room. And I was like, okay, how much would that be? And it was like, I don't know, $70 or $80 a night. Of course, she's like $70 or $80. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, I know how to upsell. So I know you just gave me the rate per night, not the total amount, right? And so I asked her, I was like, is that per night or the total amount? She said, oh, no, that's per night. So I'm like, that's what I thought. So I'm gonna decline your offer to upsell, and I just stuck with the room that I had. But yes, that's the difference. Upsell is a great opportunity for us to make money, just a little extra money. Sometimes there might be competitions. Everyone try to upsell 5 times, or every time you upsell, you get your name in a drawing for, I don't know, tickets to the zoo, whatever we've traded for. So that's another way we can use those things that we trade for as incentives for our employees. Upgrades. When do we typically upgrade? Elite members, if we can, yes.
Oh, diamond.
Diamond members, okay. What else is an example when we might upgrade?
Maybe when they're unhappy with something.
Good. When they're unhappy with something, if there is a mistake that we've made, we can use upgrades as a guest recovery method. Okay. Salespeople. We have to train our front desk to be salespeople. Okay. Because again, if upselling is not done well, then it just becomes this really awkward moment. And then we might offer those incentives to kind of help people upsell and be, I don't know, be the best face of the hotel at the front desk or whatever. So if we have an issue with, let's say we can use our guest feedback forms. and we realize that there's an issue at the front desk with the check-in process. And so maybe we can use incentives for people who don't have errors in billing, or we don't have errors in whatever we're trying to fix, whatever goal we're trying to fix, then we might have some kind of incentive program for that to help encourage our team members to improve. Jacqueline, do you have a comment?
Just people feel like valued for what they're spending.
Absolutely. We definitely want people to feel that value. All right, so sometimes we do have to deny accommodations, okay? One example is when we're completely sold out. But if we do have rooms, we are obligated to sell those rooms, okay? Now, if somebody comes to your hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning and they are like wasted, okay, completely intoxicated, would you sell that room to? Would you sell a room to somebody?
No.
Why not?
Mind and sound, 100% mind and sound.
Okay, good.
They'll be upsold, like, or they might buy stuff
So
that's unnecessary.
I was gonna say, you're gonna take advantage of this drunk person and try to upsell them, and you're gonna be like, you should get our presidential suite. It's only $2,000 a night. Yeah, go for it. Danny's gonna take advantage. So if you ever get drunk, don't go to Danny's hotel.
No, that's why you don't sell to them, because they're not right.
True, absolutely, good. What did you say?
Oh, no.
I was gonna say, like, it might disrupt the other guests.
Good, it might disrupt other guests. I had an instance once at the La Quinta where somebody called down and it's like, somebody's trying to get into my room. And so I went up there and the guest was completely intoxicated and he had no idea where his room was. And he couldn't get a hold of his friends. And he had actually just urinated on the wall because he thought he was in the bathroom of his hotel room. And so we had to have security remove him from the hotel. And then the next morning, his friends came to the front desk, and that was all in the logbook, which we'll talk about in the next chapter. All this was documented in the logbook. And his friends came down and was like, have you seen our friend? I was like, actually, I have seen your friend. And he is no longer allowed in the hotel because he just did this. And by the way, this cleaning fee is also going to be added to your hotel room, to your bill. Okay? And so sometimes we have to do that. And so sometimes we do have to deny accommodations, but if we have the rooms available, we should allow people, we should provide guest rooms for people. We don't want to get into a situation where we get any kind of situation where somebody feels discriminated against, that we're denying them accommodations because of, anything that's protected under the discrimination laws, okay? The only time we can deny it to a walk-in is if we literally have no availability.
Wait, so you not like tell like, I'm sorry, I can sell your room because you're like intoxicated. You can't say that.
No, you could.
Oh, you could.
Yeah, you could. I'm saying anything that's protected under under discrimination, like age, sex, gender, all of that stuff. You can't discriminate based on those bases. Because you don't know what damage that person is going to cause to the hotel. Now, here's also like this kind of ethical dilemma that you're in, right? You want to protect your asset. You want to protect the hotel and the guests that are there, the reputation of the hotel and the guests already there. But at the same time, do you want to send a really intoxicated person back out into the street that is looking for a hotel room? Now, if somebody comes to my hotel and they're belligerent and they're loud and intoxicated, I probably would not sell a room to them. But if they come to me and they're just, they're walking off the office party that just ended and they're coming to my hotel so they don't have to drive home, that's a different situation, right? If they are someone who is just completely sloppy drunk, then I might be more accommodating if they're really respectful, if you can kind of tell their intent. If they're just there and they are loud and when they walk into the room or into the lobby, then you might have to assess the situation a little bit.
Don't you have a legal obligation? If they're not belligerent, they go in there, you deny them a hotel room, they leave, get in a car and kill somebody. You hear about all the time at bars where they hold the bar responsible.
They
Can they
do.
hold the hotel responsible in a situation?
That's a really good question. I'd have to ask that. I can find out from my hotel partners. I can find out because I don't know.
Maybe offer it, give them a cab.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're drunk and belligerent, I'm probably just gonna call cops.
exactly. Absolutely.
I think it would be responsible of him if they gave alcohol, like in the like in the hotel restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
Like if you just walked in, looking for a room, and we said like, no, we can't do this because you're intoxicated, so you just went back out. I think we would be like responsible for that.
That's a good question. I will follow up with that, and I'll put a message out and ask. So yeah, good call. Let's see. If they're non-guaranteed reservations, so what is a non-guaranteed reservation, Stephanie? Do you remember what a non-guaranteed reservation is? If not, call one of your classmates to help you out. Who can help out Stephanie? Raise your hand. Nobody? Come on, y'all. Okay, so what is a guarantee? Let's try it another way. What's a guaranteed reservation? They've established a method of payment. Okay, so when they call to make the reservation, they have a method of payment on file. So what is a non-guaranteed reservation? Yeah, well, they don't have the card on file. So they've made it. They made a reservation. Typically, hotels will have a cancellation policy. If you haven't checked in by 4 o'clock, we're going to release your room. If you're not checked in by 3 o'clock, we're going to release your room. If you have a guaranteed reservation with a credit card method of payment and you don't show up, then we have a way to charge you for that one night room and tax. If you don't show up with a non-guaranteed reservation, we don't have that option to charge you. So that's why at about 3 or 4 o'clock, we'll release that back into our inventory so that if somebody does walk in, then we can sell that room to them. Otherwise, if I'm holding it for you and there's no way for me to charge you, and you don't show up, well then I've lost the revenue for that day, and I've turned somebody else away that I could have sold that room to. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
When we're oversold, on a day like that, and we have, guests that haven't come in by like 10 p.m., we start doing authorizations for the ones that are still existing, and if the credit card is declined, we'll just drop it.
Okay.
Unless they arrive, then we can get it back, and then they can pay with a card, but otherwise.
Because it's considered a non-guaranteed reservation at that point.
Even though you have like the credit card there, if it's declining, then you technically don't have a method of payment.
Right, absolutely. Okay, that's good. I've never heard of that before. So by 10 o'clock, if they haven't arrived, you'll do the pre-authorization of all the cards that are on file that have not checked in yet. And then if any come back that's declined, then you release those. And then you're going to honor the ones that are guaranteed, that are still guaranteed. Okay, interesting. Very cool.
That's only if you're over.
That's only, if we're completely oversold.
Because you don't want to walk a guest, and then one of those people who had one that declined actually never shows up, and then you can't actually collect that payment. So that's a good method. I like that.